Turning it up now, Frank.
Go to the bottom left corner and hit mute. There you go. And then unmute.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 2nd Township Committee meeting. We'll now salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment and ask for a moment of silence for a resident who passed recently, Doug Smiley. He passed away this weekend after a battle with pancreatic cancer. Doug was a music professional in the music professional industry and beloved by many Maplewoodians. So we just have a moment of silence for Doug. Thank you. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, the Public Laws of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing annual notice of regular meetings to 2021 to the news record and Star Ledger in December 2020, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams?
Here.
Mr. Daffis?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick?
Here.
Mayor McGehee?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all its regular and special meetings.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Fritzen, and good evening, everyone. We have an exciting agenda. We have more screens open in this meeting than we've ever had before, so a true Hollywood Square experience. But we will be starting off with our 2021 proclamation for Women's History Month, which will be led by our wonderful women leaders who are here present this evening. After that, we'll go into boards and committees where we will hear from Mr. Lembrick as he'll be nominating 3 individuals for our Swimming Pool Advisory Committee. After that, we'll head into our Board of Health meeting with Ms. Davenport and Deputy Mayor Daffis. At that point, we'll have our first public comment on agenda items only. Then we'll move into our ordinances. We have 2 on final. One is a bond ordinance for our pool utility. The second ordinance is for capital improvements throughout our facilities. After that, we'll move into our third ordinance, which is one on introduction related to establishing a medical cannabis tax. From there, we'll have reports from our departments. Mr. Kaloje is with us this evening. And then administrative reports. We'll hear from our interim administrator, Mr. Schuster. We'll hear from our township attorney, Mr. Desiderio, and finally from our township clerk, Ms. Fritzen. Then we'll have reports from elected officials. We'll hear from Mr. DeLuca. We'll hear from Ms. Adams. We'll hear from Mr. Daffis. Then we'll hear from Mr. Lembrick and then myself. We have 3 discussion items this evening. The first one is electric payments to vendors, which I will lead. Our second discussion item is grease traps, which Mr. Daffis will lead. And then finally, our third discussion item, which is brewery sales at farmers market, will be led by Ms. Adams. Our consent agenda is relatively short this evening. We'll be covering various fees for our Department of Community Services. We'll be increasing the fees. We're amending them per our conversation in previous meetings. We'll then move on to appoint officially Lieutenant Peter Krunzel to captain of the Maplewood Police Department. Then we'll pass a resolution regarding the sale of personal property and equipment no longer needed by the township online. Another resolution will deal with tax overpayments, bills and claims, affordable housing, and finally improving our minutes. At that point, we'll have our second and final public comment for any items that are not on the agenda or items that were on the agenda. And then we will adjourn until April 6th at 7:30. So great agenda. Hopefully won't be as long as historical meetings are. And without further ado, I'd like to yield the floor to Ms. Adams, who will lead us in the proclamation. And may I just say that, as I mentioned in a release, that this is a really important initiative for Maplewood. As we reflect on the events of last year, Women's History Month has taken a new meaning in 2021. With 55% of US jobs lost in 2020 accounted for by women due to COVID-19, it has not only further exposed the pre-existing gender inequalities that continue to exist in our society, but the pandemic has deepened them. This cannot stand. We need women and girls to continue to lead and to thrive at all levels of our society and in our local community, so that we do not run the risk of unwinding decades of hard-fought progress for generations to come. Thank you. Ms. Adams, I yield the floor.
Mayor, thank you. That was awesome. That says it all. And I really appreciate you framing it that way. I think that means a lot to everyone here. I want to just welcome all these fabulous current and former elected women in South Orange and Maplewood community to our meeting tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for participating. I think, this is pretty awesome by Zoom, so we're going to try our best to make it work as seamlessly as possible. But with the power of the women on the call, I think we can pull it off pretty well. There might be a couple women missing who couldn't get on for whatever reason. So I'm going to read whatever clauses they were assigned as we move along if they don't come. But right now, I'd just like to take a minute to recognize all the women who've joined us for tonight's Women's History Month proclamation. And I'm going to go down the list I have here rather than looking on the Brady Bunch screen and just call on names. And if you could unmute yourself and just tell everybody who you are and when you served or where you served and how you served, and then we'll get on to the proclamation when we get through. So I'm going to start with our Board of Ed member, Erin Siders. Hi, Erin.
Hello, Erin Siders, currently serving my second year on the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education.
Cool. And Marianne Sender.
I served on the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education for the years 1995 to 2001.
Awesome. Shelley Slavkas.
Hi, I served for 9 years on the Board of Education. And looking back, it was a very long time ago, early 90s, 2000.
And Mila JC Assemblywoman.
Hi, I also served on the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education with Marianne and with Shelley and many others. And I'm currently serving in the State Assembly representing the 27th Legislative District, which includes, obviously, South Orange and Maplewood, along with 12 other towns.
Yay. Donna Smith.
Hi, I'm impressed at the people who remember the dates. I served also on the Board of Ed a few years back for 3 years.
Great. Deborah Davis Ford, DDF.
Good evening, gorgeous ladies and gentlemen. I served as a trustee in the village of South Orange from 2007 to 2019.
Thank you. Summer Jones.
I'm Summer Jones. I was elected onto the board in 2019 as a South Orange Village trustee.
Awesome. I don't see Joyce here. So Celia King, my girl, where are you?
Hello.
Ah,
Oh, there's Ellen. Okay.
Celia, you got to introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. I paused because I saw Ellen get ready to speak. That's why. Hello, everyone. Celia King, served on the Maplewood Township Committee, vice mayor during my tenure from 94 to 2000, well, 7 years or so. And it was a great experience. Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks. Shannon Cuttle.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Shannon Cuttle. My pronouns are they and them. And I currently am in my 3rd year of the Maplewood South Orange Board of Education. I also have the esteemed honor of being elected to a Maplewood district leader for District 1 and serve in many other roles in the county and the state. And I just also want to give a shout out that for Community Women, Nancy Adams asked us all to wear white in honor of the women suffragists. And
I didn't think it was going to be a Detroit Tigers jersey.
So my white, as traditional to me, is representing my Detroit Tigers, but I'm wearing my white in honor. So thank you for that, and I'm glad to be here with you all.
Thank you. India Larrier.
She's here.
Good evening, everyone. I do have on white. I just put on blue on top of it because it's my color. Good evening. My name is India Larrier, and I served on the Maplewood Township Committee from 2012 to 2017.
Janine Bauer in the car.
Hey, everybody. Janine Bauer, South Orange Village Governing Body, 2009 to 2013.
Cool. Susan Bergen.
Hi, Susan Bergen. I joined the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education this past January. I'm in my 1st year of my 1st term.
Thank you. Wait, Kathy Leventhal.
Hello, Kathy Leventhal. I served on the Maplewood Township Committee, including Deputy Mayor, from 2004 to 2015. I'm very happy to be with you all tonight.
Thanks, Kath. Ellen Davenport.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen Davenport. I was on the Maplewood Township Committee from 1990 to 2001, 4 years of which I served as mayor with some very nice people who were sitting in front of me here. Glad to do it. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Sheena Collum.
Good evening, everyone. Sheena Collum, first elected to the Board of Trustees in 2013 and then elected village president in 2015. And I'm still here. And also acknowledging right now that as of 2019, it is the first time in the village's history in South Orange that women constitute a majority of the governing body. So it's myself along with Trustee Hilton, Trustee Jones, and Trustee Collier. So it's a special time for us right now.
Cool. I'm jealous. Donna Collier.
I want to say here.
I know.
Donna Collier.
I can kind of yell at you. Sorry.
It's okay. I'll have my 2-year anniversary as elected to the Board of Trustees in May coming up this year.
Thank you. So I don't see Joyce Harley or Stephanie Lawson Mohammed or Andrea Wren Harden. I feel like we're missing them. Are they here and I can't see them? Okay, so I guess I'll just pop in and do those. I don't get too confused. So Assemblywoman, would you like to kick off the Proclamation 2021 for Women's History Month?
Excuse me, Committee Woman Nancy Adams?
Yes.
I'm not sure if Board Member Malaspina was introduced.
Oh, wait, no.
And Karen Hilton.
And Karen Hilton.
I'm so sorry. I meant to say, did I miss anybody? Karen, sorry.
No problem. I'm Karen Hartshorn Hilton, and I'm currently proudly serving on the South Orange Board of Trustees.
And up for re-election?
Yes, I am. So I'm in my 4th year and I'm running again.
Alyssa, my apologies.
So, okay, thank you, Board Member Cuddle, for that. It's Alyssa Malaspina. I am Alyssa Malaspina. Hi, everybody. And this is my first year on the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education.
Okay, did I miss anyone else? Are we good? Okay, so thank you all so much again for being here. We'll kick off Women's History Month with, and I'll be giving information about somawomen.org and more information about all the stuff we have planned for the month later in my report. But let's kick this off if you don't mind. Let's see how this goes. So Assemblywoman, would you mind starting us off on the proclamation for Women's History Month?
I would be honored to do that. And I want to take this moment to thank you, Nancy, for putting this together. I know it's a lot of work. And this is my third Zoom of the day. So if I sound a little tired, I am.
Yeah, well, join the club. We're all
I know, it's like, 2021 Women's History Month. Whereas for more than 2 centuries, our nation has grown under the simple creed that each of us is created equal. It is a notion that makes America unlike any other place on earth, a country where no matter where you come from or what you look like, you can go as far as your talents will take you. And
where should I just go?
Yep.
Okay. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And
whereas American women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of the life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force, working inside and outside of the home. And
whereas Women's History Month is a time to remember those who fought and many who fought and died to make that freedom as real for our daughters as for our sons.
Written out of the promise of the franchise, they were women who reached up to close the gap between what America was and what it could be. They were driven by a faith that our union could extend true equality to every citizen willing to claim it. And
whereas year after year, visionary women met and marched and mobilized to prove what should have been self-evident, that they swelled a meeting at Seneca Falls into a movement that touched every community and took on our highest institutions.
And after decades of slow, steady, extraordinary progress, women have written equal opportunity into the law again and again, giving generations of girls a future worthy of their potential. And
whereas American women have been leaders, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all.
Their long-fought movement finally succeeded in 1920 with the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, finally giving women the right to vote. And
whereas the women's suffragette movement was fraught with racism and discrimination towards Black suffragists, particularly when white suffragist leaders were trying to appeal to leaders in the Jim Crow South for women's national voting rights.
And Black suffragists endured and persevered as they fought not only for the rights of women to vote, but of Black women and men and non-binary folk, that we recognize and honor their unparalleled commitment in fighting for the rights of all women and being inclusive of LGBTQ and trans women as we move forward. And
Janine, it's you. Can I unmute you? There you go.
The evidence of that legacy is everywhere. Women make up more than half the population of the United States, almost half of the workforce, except for now, and more than half of the college population. And
But even now, too many women feel the weight of discrimination on their shoulders. They face a pay gap at work, or discrepancies in health insurance, or inadequate options for family leave. These issues affect all of us, and failing to address them holds our country back. And
whereas medical research, while showing some improvement, has for decades focused on men, ignoring women, and particularly women of color. In fact, medical research in many areas, including cardiovascular disease, which kills more women than men, often includes few women subjects and doesn't report results by gender. This disparity in research by gender has resulted in misdiagnosis and incorrect treatment of women, causing more women's fatalities. And
Deborah.
Oh, I do too many of these. Whereas recent times has brought to light the sexual harassment and abuse imposed on women in the workforce for decades, holding them prisoners to male power, being stepped over for promotions and positions of authority, and limiting their ability to advance and thrive in their careers. And
Celia, you're muted. There you go.
Even having finally reached the White House in our new Vice President, Kamala Harris, women are still not fully or adequately represented at the top tables of organizations and corporations, nor on local governing bodies or in state and national houses of government, and are therefore not being heard or listened to, leaving a woman's very important perspective unrepresented when corporate and policies and decisions on local, state, and federal laws are being made. And
whereas our history shows that when we couple grit and ingenuity with our beliefs, there is no barrier we cannot overcome. We can stay true to our founding creed that in America, all things should be possible for all people. That spirit is what called our mothers and grandmothers to fight for a world where no wall nor ceiling could keep their daughters from their dreams. And
although we still have much to do to make our opportunities brighter, we do recognize the accomplishments of women who fought for our rights now and in the past and pledged to them to keep advocating for equality. And
whereas despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. And
whereas Women's History Month is also not adequately recognized each year, nor are the accomplishments of women in history adequately focused on in our schools during the month of March and otherwise. And
whereas South Orange and Maplewood community leaders are working together to finally shine the spotlight on Women's History Month with events and promotion of local women-owned businesses and to celebrate women's empowerment and to focus on women in history who fought for our rights and whose lives changed the course of history, and call on our school district to do the same by including Women's History Month in the curriculum.
now, therefore, I, Nancy Adams, on behalf of Mayor Frank McGehee and the rest of the Maplewood Township Committee, and on behalf of South Orange Village President Sheena Collum and the South Orange Board of Trustees, do hereby proclaim March 2021 as Women's History Month in the townships of Maplewood and South Orange. Thank you all. Not gonna lie, that was pretty awesome. So thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
You.
That was
Nancy.
awesome.
Thank you,
you.
Nancy.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Nancy.
Adam. Thank
Bye.
you, all distinguished guests. Amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Nancy.
Thank you.
Great to
Good
see
night, all.
everybody.
Good to see you, Mila.
Take
You're
care.
all welcome to stay. You don't have to leave.
Do this again sometime.
Understood.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We'll now move on in our agenda to agenda item number 6, boards and committees. I now like to yield the floor to Mr. Limbrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have an exciting pool season. We're hoping to be able to have. Hopefully the pandemic and conditions will cooperate. And we have a number of residents who have expressed interest in joining the pool committee, 3 of which I'd like to nominate tonight for appointment. 2 of them are here. I don't see the 3rd here. But we'll go ahead and I'll propose nominating all 3. And I can tell you that some of these folks have already jumped in and started volunteering on subcommittees and are already working hard on behalf of the pool. So maybe I'll take them one by one. And you know, what I'll ask you to do is introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you're interested in serving on the pool committee. So we'll go alphabetical order. So first is Craig Goldstein.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity. I want to join on the pool committee because I have some time that I like to spend on giving back to our community again. And the pool to me is a wonderful place for our family to come and enjoy getting out of the house, especially after all the year we've had. It's a great resource in town. And I think, you know, putting up our sleeves and kind of digging in and making it better for everyone. And is something that I want to join in. I think I've been on a few meetings already, and I'm just so impressed with the dedication of the people that have been on the committee already, getting in there and trying to make it better for their fellow residents, some who they know and some who they don't. But I'm very excited to jump in there and help out where I can.
Thank you, Craig. And our second nominee for appointment tonight is Lori McGuire Gates. Lori, if you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to join the pool committee.
Sure. Thank you all for having me here tonight. I'm particularly grateful I could hear the Women's History Month proclamation. That was pretty fantastic. My family moved here in 2012, and we've been members of the pool every summer. I have 2 boys, and it's been one of our favorite parts of living here in Maplewood. I also have some time to give and would like to contribute in any way I can to the town. After seeing how well the pool ran last summer, and from what I'm learning, that was took a lot of additional work and logistics to make that happen. My family was personally very grateful that the pool was open. It really provided a nice social outlet for my kids who are in kindergarten and 4th grade at Tuscan. And I would love to contribute in any way I can and be useful into making that happen this summer and the years to come. I also have participated in a couple meetings already, and I'm really blown away by all the work that's being done on the pool committee. So thank you for having me and considering me.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor, our 3rd nominee tonight, it's actually her wedding anniversary, and she's having dinner with her husband. So I think we can excuse that. That's Angela Bowers. So you know, I guess I would ask, you know, without objection, I'd like to make all 3 nominations together and have us vote on the 3 together unless someone wants to separate them. But I would like to nominate Angela Bowers, Lori McGuire Gates, and Craig Goldstein to serve as members of the Maplewood Community Swimming Pool Advisory Committee.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, thank you all.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, and thank you, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And Mr. Mayor, that's the end of my nominations for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Limber. All right, we'll now move on to agenda item number 7, which is our Board of Health meeting. I will now yield the floor to Deputy Mayor Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Let's start with the statement. I'm going to pull it up here in a minute. So many windows open, it's ridiculous. Pursuant to section 5, chapter 231 of the Public Laws of New Jersey, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2021 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2020, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick?
Oh.
Mayor McGehee?
Here.
Mr. Daffis?
Here. Okay, and with that, I move the approval of the minutes from the February 2nd, 2021 Board of Health. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. I yield the Zoom or the mic in this instance to Health Officer Davenport.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much, Township Committee Member Ms. Adams. It was that Women's History Month proclamation was amazing and powerful and very inspirational to see all those wonderful women in one platform. So thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen for today's presentation. Can everyone see that? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm going to just minimize this for a second. I just want to show you all the, this is our COVID cases for the year 2020. As you can see, we started back on March 17th, similar to when the county and the state marked their dates for when our COVID cases started happening. It's a very good reflection of where we have been, and I'll go into where we are going on the next slide. But I just want to show you how our cases in Maplewood have mimicked, as I've said many times, but I always find it fascinating, that we mimic Essex County's movement of COVID cases, and the New Jersey state pattern follows the same pattern as well, which is all very interesting. So you can see that back in March and April, when we were hardest hit with a lot of cases and unfortunately a lot of hospitalizations and deaths. And then there was a lull. Had we known it was a lull, those were actually the good times. And then we hit into the October months, but the cases never went away, right? And then we move into the fall and into the holiday season, and we see a spike and increase there as well. Again, this is a similar pattern for Essex County as well as the state of New Jersey. This is the current status of COVID cases from January to our latest numbers of February 26th. As you can see, and what I want to highlight here is that green line, which is the downward trend of what we're seeing is almost 4 cases a day, which is our average, 4 to 5 cases a day. And this is a very good sign. As you can tell from the beginning, back in January, we were up to 7 as an average, a daily average. So we are moving in the right direction. We just have to keep being vigilant and moving forward in this direction with increased testing and encouraging people to go get testing, and then making sure that people get appointments for the much desired vaccine. In order to address the needs of people of color in our community, who may want to let us know what are some of the barriers or access issues that they are individually finding, or speak on behalf of neighbors and friends. We are holding 2 focus groups. One is open, and this is for both Maplewood and South Orange. One is for the African and Black communities, and that will be this Thursday, March 4th at 7:30 p.m. These are all via Zoom, and currently we have 9 members who will be joining us, so thank you very much to those. And on Tuesday, March 9th, we will have another Zoom focus group at 4 p.m. for the Latino community. And we have about 7 people participating in that. This is a focus group that's a co-joint effort between SOMA, 2 Towns for All Ages. You know, we're trying to also get seniors to participate as well. And we have the pleasure of having 2 moderators from Clara Moss. One is Miss Sarah Bonilla from the Center for Excellence of Latino Health, and then Miss Desira Highsmith Holcomb, who is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for Clara Moss Medical Center. So they will be our moderators in helping us move through the questions that were developed by both Talia Jeffers and Chihiro Morel, who are our vulnerable population coordinators. It is good news that I provide you today with new COVID vaccination eligibility groups. Starting this Monday, as per the governor's office, not this Monday, Monday, March 15th, I wish it was this Monday. The following categories are eligible for vaccination. I won't read these out to you, but it is very inclusive of essential workers, but happy to note that it also includes our educators, including support staff for pre-K through 12th grade settings. It also includes many other essential workers, and beginning on Monday, March 29th, more frontline essential workers will be added to the categories who will be eligible for vaccination. And those are listed here. Many of those women are many of those positions are held by essential workers who are women. And part of Women's History Month, we are acknowledging them with an exhibit at the 1978 Art Center on Springfield Avenue called Sheroes, Celebrating Female Essential Workers. This is a program through the Department of Community Services and Maplewood Arts and Culture. And they've been so amazingly helpful. So thank you to the director, Missy Mancuso, as well as Anna D'Archuleta, for taking all the pictures and getting all the quotes from people. I hope you will take a chance to look at it. We have a great mix and diversity of women who are being represented here. And hopefully it'll open up people's eyes to how essential women are and how they were at the front lines of helping people throughout COVID. You know, they helped us to keep public safety. They were the people who provided you with your groceries. They came to work so that you could stay at home. And it's super important. We have a highlight of Liz Fritzen, who is on the call tonight. She's our township clerk. One of the things I want to highlight about her is, you know, something that people don't know about the township clerk's office perhaps is she helped to run and execute so perfectly the June and our November elections in town. Without her efforts and the work of her staff, that would have been very difficult to have. So kudos to her. And I just also want to acknowledge Miss Ana Guevara Lopez, who is our township custodian. We're lucky to have her. Her and Tim Ellis have been there at the front lines, keeping us all safe so that we can do the public service work in the office. And then we also have 4 Maplewood police officers who many people may not realize that we have Maplewood police officers who are women, and they've been amazing and have been at the front lines working from the beginning. So please feel free to visit the 1978 Art Center on Springfield Avenue. That exhibit is on all month.
Ms. Davenport, where's your picture on that?
I just wanted to highlight the pretty people. So there, I put Liz there. So let me also just bring up, I'm going to move this for a second. I also just want to bring up this new effort by Rutgers University Behavioral Healthcare. As we are moving through almost a year into COVID, mental health and addiction is a huge issue that we're finding as one of the residue issues that are happening for COVID and are still impacting and are strongly, unfortunately, impacting our residents. So I'd like to say that if you are experiencing undue stress related to the spread of COVID for whatever reason, you need someone to talk to, please utilize this phone number. And I'm asking the Township Committee if you can assist us with spreading the word about this on your social media platforms and in any education you might have, or if someone has a question about mental health, please have them give this referral program a call, because I think it's really important that we keep bringing up the message that mental health is important and should not be stigmatized, especially in our community now and among women. Ooh. Oh, that's weird. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Bear with me for 1 second. Oh, that was the end of my slide. So I will stop sharing now. Okay, hold on 1 second. And let me move on to environmental health. Just to mention that in our discussion period, we'll be talking about grease traps more thoroughly. We have a proposal for an ordinance there, so we'll be discussing that. And then I just want to update you all that part of our public health responsibilities is to make sure that licensing and inspections are done for some of the following, including dog and cat licensing, our retail food establishments, our childcare centers, many of which are all up and running and have been running for some time to provide childcare for those who have to return to the workforce. We have one kennel, so we have to license them too, and our spa and massage and tattoo parlors. We also license pools, but we won't be doing that now until closer to the summer months. So we are working hard on licensing and inspection, so those are going as planned. And then I also would like to bring up the last part in my agenda, which is social services. So two of the topics are discussion of shifting the social services director into the Department of Health. And then the second one is proposing shared services with South Orange for the senior social worker, Carol Berman. And part of the reason why we're bringing that up in Board of Health is because in the last week, I've had to go out on a call to assist the fire department and the police department with a case that we had regarding an adult in our community where there was a questionable caregiver abuse. So we needed to take a look at that. But Mr. Daffis mentioned that there is a discussion regarding shared services with a senior social worker, Ms. Carol Berman. And I think that it would be a worthwhile case in point. Last week, that case could have benefited from a social worker instead of myself, because they have more resources in their toolbox than maybe I could have provided. So I will open it up first for discussion of shifting the social services director to the health department.
So thank you, Health Officer Davenport. As my colleagues recall, and we discussed this during the budget hearings last Saturday, back in November, Township Administrator Viveros at the time had recommended a reorganization of our departments that included pulling out the Department of Health, making it its own department. And along with it came our social services coordinator, Beverly Ashman, whom, as you all know, we used to call the welfare person, that we don't use that term anymore for good reasons. So we adopted that org chart officially as a governing body. Mr. Desiderio drafted, and we adopted an ordinance reclassifying all of our employees, the Department of Health in that classification that we adopted, I think, in December, included social services under the Department of Health. But then when we introduced an ordinance creating the Department of Health as its own department in January, we did not include the human services or the social services person. I don't think that we need to go back and fix the ordinance. I think we're okay as we are, but we thought we'd bring this up Health Officer Davenport and I to the rest of you to ensure and to get some further input from Mr. Desiderio to ensure that we are in best practice. Mr. Desiderio?
I am here, Mr. Daffis. I'm sorry, I heard everything you said, but I'm not sure that I understand what you're specifically asking me. We had a discussion about, my recollection was there was a discussion about moving the social services director to the health department. My recollection is that my original draft may have had that in there, and then I was told no, to leave it where it was, which is in community services, I think, right?
It is currently under community services, although that conflicts with our employee classification and the org chart that we had adopted. So I think you were right. And somewhere along the way, there was some confusion and you got the wrong advice. And so we need to sort of, if you find that it's in best practice, to go back and amend our ordinance accordingly.
I mean, if that's the will of the governing body, absolutely. That we should definitely do it by ordinance. Yes, I agree.
So I open it up to my colleagues for their input on this.
I support moving it to Department of Health.
Anyone else?
I have no objection.
Okay, so we have a consensus on that. Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Thank you, Health Officer Davenport. Regarding the senior social services shared service with South Orange, again, we talked about this previously, and we all recommended moving forward to share Ms. Carol Berman, who works part-time, just a few hours a week in South Orange, to share her in Maplewood, as she is already doing outreach to some of our seniors in need in Maplewood. She's just not officially paid as such by Maplewood. So anyway, so we talked about a shared service with South Orange. South Orange directly contracts with JFS, Jewish Family Services, for Ms. Berman's services. So what we would be doing with South Orange is agreeing to a certain amount of hours per week. I think the recommendation was just 10 hours per week, and we would pay half of her salary, as she's doing 20 hours total for both South Orange and Maplewood. And I forget what the exact, Mr. Desiderio has some information possibly, but I forget what that came to. I think it was like some nominal amount. It was $5,000 or something like that. Mr. Desiderio, I know you did a lot of work on this, and you reached out to South Orange business administrator to get further information, but I think at some point it just sort of died. Is that correct?
Yes, that's exactly correct, Mr. Daffis. At some point, it just kind of died. And my last recollection was that the administrator in South Orange suggested he was going to talk to you about it. Whether or not he ever reached out to you in that regard, I do not know. But yes, that's where it did go.
Okay, so if we're bringing this again for full transparency and collaboration with everyone. If everyone is still on board with our doing this, I will reach back out to South Orange and see if we can move this forward. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So
my opinion is unchanged. Let's go.
Yes, yes. And there is a need, as Health Officer Davenport reported. We had an incident with a very well, let's just say it was a very vulnerable incident, and we could have used Carol's expertise. None of us knew. Well, let's just say we could have used Carol's expertise. That's all needs to be said. So great. So with that, if there are there any other questions from my colleagues? Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you. Ms. Davenport, I have two things I wanted to run by you. One is sort of not pleasant. It's Van Ness. I'm getting complaints from people there that we're getting folks walking dogs and not picking up after their dogs. It may be some folks who are coming from the Union section of Van Ness, but I'm also hearing that it's some people who live on Van Ness and in Van Ness Court. So what would you suggest? How would you suggest we address this?
So the complaint is by neighbors saying that people are not picking up their waste.
Correct.
So we do have signs where we can have them produce. I think we have some downstairs actually still. We can have neighbors put them out. It says, you know, please pick up your dog waste. That might deter people. I think that people just may not even realize that they need to do this. The other thing is if people can know what time someone frequents, we can have one of our REHSs there at those specific times, and then we would educate people. And then if they continue to do it, then we would do a notice of violation.
Okay, I think I'll suggest the signs to them. I think we're beyond the signs because the residents have informed these folks about the law, and they've gotten, let's say, a lack of enthusiasm about following the law.
Okay, right.
So I will, I'll talk to them about times because they do know the times of day. It's on a regular basis, so.
Right, that would be helpful to us.
Okay, so and I will get back to you. The second is on the vaccinations, and I just want to share something here. This is the most current information we got from the county about the vaccinations, and you can see Maplewood, we have 4,000 people vaccinated, almost 3,000 first vaccines and a little over 1,100 plus second. So the question I have from you is, this just represents the county, the ones that are done at a county site, at one of the 5 county sites. Do we have well, I guess a couple of questions. Do we have a master list of everybody in town who's received a vaccine?
That is a good question. I have not seen that information, but I am sure I can try to find it out from the state, because the state health department sends out all of the vaccine. It has to come through the state, and then they disperse it both to county facilities and, you know, governmental facilities, as well as private entities, or at least they should have a number of how much is going to like a CVS or a Walgreens. So I can find out how many people by first and second dose. We can break it down by municipality. They may not be able to break it down by municipality, but I'll do my best to find that out.
Because I assume like someone who lives in town who may work at St. Barnabas, say, or Clara, Mass, who received their vaccination there, we don't have any way of knowing.
We won't see those.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
We won't see those.
So this number probably doesn't represent the true number of people. We also know that, for example, at the Irvington Avenue Seniors, people received vaccinations there, and that would not be in this 4,000.
Correct. Okay.
So as we think about our plan, particularly as you described in rolling out these additional populations, we have, with 25,000 people, we have about 18,000 that are 18 and over. So eventually all those people will be eligible for a vaccination. So 4,000 people represents only 22% of all the potential adults from 18 and over. So we have a lot of work to do going forward, and it's going to be really critical that we, as we talked amongst ourselves, and we're going to be doing this after your 2 sessions, is to really sit down either through OEM or Board of Health and figure out how to do a rollout plan as the populations increase, because we really have to reach those numbers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I just want to make a clarification that that's 4,066 doses, but the number of people who've actually received the first dose is 2,939. And then the second dose is people, part of the first dose people, right? So yeah, I will try to get a number for the municipality, if not for Essex County, because you're right. These are only just municipalities. These are from the county's numbers.
Right. If you do know the county breaks this down by race?
I believe that the county does break it down by race. When we were on a phone call, they said that approximately 5% of people who have gotten vaccinated are people of color. Okay. But then there's almost 20% of people who've received the vaccine that do not self-identify by race. So there's a big gap there. Of how many people are getting it.
If I may, I know this, a couple of things, this was brought up on the mayor's call with the county this morning, and I know there's a push by the current volunteers to ask people to identify because sometimes they don't want to identify, but they're looking for those statistics so that to that point that we can see where we are on an index perspective, because the state numbers are 5% Black and 6% Latinx, and we want to see if we skew higher. One of the interesting things that was announced this morning as well on call was that the county starting this week will start a mobile program, and they're going to start with Newark, Irvington, Orange, and East Orange for underserved communities. And when you look at some of the numbers there, what was telling when I got this document as well was that Livingston right there is at 7,773. But yet Newark, the biggest city in all of New Jersey, is below Livingston. That's telling to me personally. And so I do think we have our work to do. Our numbers, when I ran the numbers, we're at 3.8%, 3.4% respectfully of those who have been vaccinated by the county. So, that number is what it is. But there is an opportunity. We need to get from that 22% up to 70% for Maplewood. So we have a ways to go. But hopefully, as I understand it, the pilot run is starting this week with areas that really need, look at Orange, 678. They're not even Irvington, 826. They're not even in 1,000 digits yet. So hopefully it'll be successful. And as I communicated, we need the program too. So hopefully that mobile site will come to Maplewood after initially hitting really key areas in our community.
I think that's very important, Mayor, because if you look at where the facility is in Livingston, you see this huge number. And if you go down the other facilities in West Orange, you also see a huge number. So where the facility is or where facilities are plays a big role in pulling people out for the vaccination. So I absolutely agree that a mobile site could very well help us reach those numbers that are critical.
Should we also be promoting other places, Candace, that people can sign up online to get vaccinated? Like I just recently was told I could go on Atlantic Health and sign up, and St. Barnabas, and then you just sign, and the state, obviously, you just sign up on multiple sites until somebody lets you in. So,
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we know though? Because if, to the mayor's point, if we want to get to 70%, but we only know who got vaccinated at a county, then you know what I mean? How do we know?
Right. So I will find out how we can get the totality of everyone that's been vaccinated. I want to get back to a point that you had mentioned, Ms. Adams, which is if people want to register at other places outside of just the county locations, they can go to covid19.nj.gov/vaccines, and they can search by county. So I'll say if you live in Maplewood, you'd search by Essex County. The state also has mega sites, which are located throughout the county. The two that are located nearest us are Morris and I believe in Middlesex. And you would also, if you're in one of the tiers or acceptable populations, eligible communities, you could also schedule it there too. But you would have to schedule yourself directly, just like you would for Essex COVID. And then once you get a vaccination appointment, please cancel all the other places you might have applied to. So it opens up the valve for other people to enter in.
Right. And if you work in another county,
you can use that address too, similar to people who, like, for example, live in Somerset but work in Essex. They can use the Essex zip code for their place of work as well as the place where they live.
Yeah, it's really tricky. We have been promoting those alternate places where people can be vaccinated because a good example, well, for one, the scheduling nightmares in the beginning due to limited supply. But also we had pregnant persons who the county was not initially vaccinating, even though they were eligible due to conflicting information from the CDC. The guidance was sort of, yes, maybe, no, oh yeah, for sure. It went back and forth. So we did have we heard from a lot of pregnant persons who we guided accordingly, and we sent them to other locations. So that number is not going to include them, right? Because it's not tracking outside of the county sites. Also, we sent people to CVS and Walgreens, which are now opening up vaccinations. The closest CVS to Maplewood is the one in West Orange, where you can schedule a vaccination. Again, those people are not going to be accounted for in our numbers. So we need to definitely get to the bottom of a better tracking system.
Yeah, and they might not be able to track it by town, right? The state has a really hard time going down to municipality level data. So they might just say 70% of New Jersey has gotten vaccinated. But I will try to, again, find as much information out as I can about our residents.
Because we do know when our residents are test positive. So it feels like there might be a way to do the same kind of tracking or contact tracing that we do with positive tests.
Yeah, those tests also, by the way, are from results from the county, not necessarily ones that are done at CVS's or the Walgreens.
Oh, okay, so it's the same lab. Yeah.
But see, on the testing, we know who's positive. We don't know all the people who got tested.
Right.
So
That's
the
correct.
problem.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we get all the positives, but we don't necessarily
You don't
know
hear the
where
negatives.
they got it from.
Mhm. Good discussion. Are there any other questions or issues anyone wants to raise before we open it up for public comment? Seeing none, let's open it up to public comment. Are there members of the public who would like to address the Board of Health, ask a question? Now's your chance to raise your hand.
Okay, Mr. Davis, I have Mr. John Sullivan. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. You can hear me?
Yes, we can, John. Yep.
John Sullivan, 11 Field Road. As I've indicated to all the present members of the Township Committee, our community is now suffering a crisis, a mental health crisis. And I'm glad to see that Ms. Davenport was promoting the Mental Health and Addiction COVID Connect program. It's paramount that we promote that throughout the community. In one of the recent public safety meetings, the police chief indicated that the only increase in crime that we've had in the past year had to do with batteries and assaults. And he believed, or they concluded, it dealt with domestic violence, which was also dealing with the mental health that people are suffering as a result of the COVID. So I'm glad to see that this is being introduced and promoted, and it's really needs to be advertised throughout the community. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. Nick, are there any other folks from the public who'd like to address the Board of Health?
That's all I got, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Nick. And with that, we're going to close the comments from the public. I'm going to move that we adjourn and that we reconvene our Board of Health meeting on April 6th.
Second.
Great, thank you. Ms. Fritzen? Yep.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lindbergh,
Yes.
Mayor McGeehee,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Mr. Mayor, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis, and thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And thank you, Ms. Davenport. An excellent presentation and conversation.
Thank you, and I'll see you guys again in the discussion period. Thank you.
Okay, so don't go too far. Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item number 8, which is public comment, agenda items only. Nick, do we have anyone who would like to address the Township Committee?
If anyone would like to address the Township Committee, please just use the raise your hand function and I'll give you 3 minutes to speak. I have no takers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Nick.
Mayor, I had an email question from a resident, but I wasn't sure if they wanted me to read it or if they were going to raise their hand. But it was on ordinance 301921.
301921. Do you want to read it now, or do you want to wait until we go to that ordinance?
Up to you.
It should be at the time of the ordinance. So it's part of the public hearing.
So we'll do it then. Glenn.
Okay.
Thank you. And on that, we'll move on to agenda item number 9, which is ordinance on final.
Mayor, agenda item number 9, ordinance number 3018-21 is an ordinance on final passage, bond ordinance providing a supplemental appropriation of $300,000 for improvements to the pool utility in and by the Township of Maplewood in the County of Essex, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance of $285,000 in bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on this bond ordinance regarding our pool utility?
I don't have anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Hearing no one, will close public comment, and I will move it myself. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a pass ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now on our second ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor, it's item number 10, ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3019-21. Bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Maplewood in the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $1,335,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,268,250 in bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Glenn will now hear that email.
Sure thing. I'll read it into the record for you, Mayor. This is from Inda Shezer, 57 Euclid Ave. Regarding the roof project for the Maplewood Municipal Building, please explain if this is a full roof replacement or just what is the scope of work. If it is a full roof replacement or majority thereof, I would like to know why the expected useful life is listed as only 10 years and the average useful life is 8.6 years. A properly installed slate roof should have an expected useful life of at least 50 years.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm not an engineer, so I will speak to what I've read in ordinance itself. It's not the entire roof, it's part of the roof. It's the part of the roof where we've had some extreme water damage. And as we did more work, we found uncovered more there. I think the period of usefulness where it is noted as 10 years relates to the amount of years probably guaranteed. But again, I understand the purpose of it and the usefulness, but I can't speak as an engineer to the exact reason why you have information providing saying 50 and we have 10. Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Inda. Any other comments from the public?
Mr. Mayor, I think Mr. Kaloje wants to address that.
Sure, Mr. Kaloje, I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, it is not an engineering issue. It's a bond statute issue. The state designates specific categories, and then they're the ones that assign specific life expectancy to various projects, so that you can go anywhere from 5 years to 40 years, depending on the project. So these numbers that you're seeing in the bond ordinances and the averages are all created by the state statute.
Thank you, Mr. Kaloje. Anyone else like to address the Township Committee on this ordinance?
I don't have anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Hearing no one, we will close the hearing, and I'll move it myself. I move this ordinance to be adopted as a whole and the clerk to be directed to publish the same as a pass ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We now have agenda item number 11.
Yes, Mayor. This one's on introduction to new ordinance number 3020-21. An ordinance to establish a medical cannabis transfer tax pursuant to NJSA 24A 61-1.
I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication in accordance to the law of the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on April 6th. Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I think, isn't the March 16th?
March 16th.
March 16th.
Oh, March 16th, my apologies.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. All right, we're now at agenda item number 12, which is reports from departments. I know that Mr. Cloutier has joined us, but we're going to, unless he wants to speak, we're going to wait to hear from him during our first discussion item in agenda item 15. Mr. Cloutier, would you like to? Perfect. Sounds like you've had enough on Saturday as it is. All right, we'll now move on to administrative reports, and we'll hear from our interim township administrator, Mr. Schuster. Mr. Schuster, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything really to report this evening. I think you all know what I've been working on. I've been closing out my time here, working with everyone on the budget. Of course, been conducting union negotiations as well. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But this would be my last regular meeting with you all as the interim administrator. I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve Maplewood. I think you have a phenomenal staff here, a great community, a great township committee, and it's been a pleasure working with all of you. The rest of my time here is going to be finishing up the projects I'm in the middle of, and of course, making sure we have a smooth transition over to Mr. Jimes, who we've been conversing with and exchanging, getting him on boarded as much as possible. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sure everything will work smoothly as we transition over to Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Schuster?
No, Mayor, I'd just like to thank Mr. Schuster for a phenomenal job of doing this interim piece over with a budget and everything. And it's nice to know you in two dimensions, and hopefully maybe one day we'll meet in person. But it's been nice to have you at the helm. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I echo those remarks. Mr. Schuster, it's been a pleasure working with you, sir. You really jumped right in. It was seamless. And I want to thank you for being collaborative and expressing your wit and humor along the way. It's been fun. And we're going to miss you. And thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to also join in and thank you for flying into all of our meetings.
My pleasure.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you.
We'll now move on and hear from our township attorney, Mr. Desiderio.
Yeah, I just have one item, Mayor. So our new administrator should be taking over on March the 8th. We had appointed an interim appropriate authority with regard to the police department. Is there a consensus that we should have the new administrator be the appropriate authority beginning on at the meeting of the 16th?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'll take care of that. And I too would like to just take a minute, having never met Mr. Schuster in person, but it is not easy to come in the middle of union negotiations and all the other things that go on. And my impressions have been that he is a true professional. And as a resident, I'd like to thank him for his time here. Good job.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Any questions for Mr. Desiderio? Hearing none, we'll move on to our township clerk, Ms. Fritzen.
Thanks, Mayor. So I reported to the Township Committee yesterday that I had received news that election poll workers are going to be offered vaccination by the end of March. which is like super great news for all township clerks. And, you know, there are frontline people that will allow us to have in-person elections again. And quite a few of them are of a vulnerable population. So again, the date was March 29th that they would all start the vaccination process. So again, I think it's great. I'm thrilled about it because it's one more step in normalcy of being able to conduct elections back in polling places and not all by mail. I have met Mr. Schuster, and he's been terrific. He's been great for employees, great for the department heads. It's really nice to have somebody come in and help your department heads and your employees achieve their goals. So Greg, I really want to say thank you, and it's been a pleasure, and I hope we do meet again. And that's it. You've been super.
So have you, Liz. Thank you.
That's it, Mayor, for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Any questions for Ms. Fritzen? Hearing none. Thank you again, Ms. Fritzen. We'll now move on to reports from elected officials. I want to clarify a little bit the order there, and I'd like to let Ms. Adams lead off this evening. No.
Sorry, I was multitasking. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a couple announcements. At Recreation Human Services Committee meeting, we are discussing the fees for the Woodland. Anna has met with Mr. DeLuca and with the Arts Council input, and we'll be bringing that to the Township Committee, if not next meeting, then the meeting after, probably the meeting in the beginning of April. We also have the Environmental Advisory Committee has slated their river cleanup, the annual river cleanup with COVID precautions of 6 feet apart, but they are carrying, it was canceled last year, so there's probably twice the litter to be cleaned up. And that is Saturday, April 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Memorial Park, meet by the Civic House. Also, Memorial Park Conservancy is doing painters in the park. It would be live artists throughout Memorial Park. More details to come. That's May 15th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Sounds really like a really cool thing. So also, obviously, it's Women's History Month. So kicking it off today with such an awesome proclamation was really heartwarming for me. I just want to share, I'm going to copy from Mr. DeLuca and share my screen to show. This is somawomen.org. This has all of the information, and it's still being populated. I've been mostly responsible for populating it, and there's a ton of emails that I still have to go through to add to our events, which are already really stacking up with a lot going on. And, you know, there's also toward the bottom of this, you'll see events that are all month long. So things like the Wear White for Women group photo is obviously virtual this year, and we're encouraging women to wear white and take selfies, and then hashtag Soma women, Soma wears white. I think that's what it is. Hashtag Soma wears white, or put it in the Dropbox, and that's if you click learn more, you'll see that. Also, we've been working, and kudos to our Cultural Affairs Department, Lisa and Anna, putting this together is awesome. Windows for women all over Maplewood and South Orange, and businesses, storefronts. There's also local artists, women artists are spotlighted in a lot of these as well, so it's really cool. And then, as Ms. Davenport pointed out, the Shiros is at 1978 for the entire month. And Remarch, a local business, has female artists for Women's History Month on display for the whole month at 1843 Springfield Avenue. And then this is a drop-off location for personal hygiene products for women. And like I said, there's just some super stuff in here. A Durant Hedenhouse exhibit is on the fight for women's suffrage, goes through the month as well. And a progressive theater that starts March 5th and goes through the 31st. So there's just a ton going on, and it's been really awesome to have this, to be populating this just a lot. There's also a book list. This was cultivated by both the South Orange Library and Maplewood Library, along with Jonah from Words Bookstore's input. So you can find that. And then we have women-owned businesses in both towns by district. This is downtown. These are all linked. If they have a website, you can go right to their website. This is on Springfield Avenue. And then this is South Orange. So even though it's virtual, we've got robust stuff going on, and it's been really great. Also, don't forget, you can go to, hopefully you can still see Soma Celebrates Women's Facebook page. And if I can get to this, there's also on Instagram. You can follow Soma Celebrates Women on Instagram or Facebook or our website. So, and now I don't know how to get back out. Hold on. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. I love that picture with Vice President there on your.
Oh, right.
Awesome.
That's my favorite. I feel like making like wallpaper out of it or something.
Awesome. Yeah, we're very, very good. Thank you so much. We'll now hear from Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. So Terrace End, the Alternative Treatment Center, the Apothecarium, is coming to 1865 Springfield Avenue. And believe it or not, the opening is scheduled for April 20th, 4/20. And those of you who know cannabis time, 4/20 is the day, actually at 4:20 p.m. So we'll see what happens there. So that is the day that they are planning to open. So
that's awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Love it.
We have had, as we planned with them, we've had some community meetings. We had a senior session on the 23rd, which focused on how seniors or others who have medical need can actually get medical marijuana. We had a job fair on February 26th at the Hilton branch of the library. We had 59 people come. It was a very diverse group by race, gender, age. So that's exactly what we were looking for. On March 11th at 7:30 p.m., we're going to have a community session by Zoom on Terrace End. Also in March, they're going to be meeting with the Municipal Alliance. And we're also going to have, before they open, a courtesy meeting with the police. So we're on our way to making this happen. And of course, next meeting we'll pass our tax so that we'll be able to charge 2% sales tax or transfer, whatever it's called, on every transaction there. So that'll help us generate some income from that facility. I want to move to Sustainable Essex Alliance on February 20th.
Can I ask you a question on the Terrace End thing? Just, do you have any idea of what the state regulations are coming out for recreational? Because most medical facilities will be transitioning to that.
So the governor has just appointed his representatives to the Cannabis Commission. The Cannabis Commission, and there's actually some controversy over the membership because there's a group of activists in the state who do not feel that it is representative of the populations in the state. So there may be some shakeup of that. They are probably going to take 6 months to develop the regulations. So best guess is we're talking about the end of this year, beginning of 2021, that will have clear regulations on how to move forward.
At least.
Yes. Sustainable Essex Alliance. So this is the energy cooperative that we're involved with 6 other towns: South Orange, Glen Ridge, Verona, Montclair, Livingston, and Glen Rock in Bergen County. And we had February 24th, we had a very good presentation on Zoom, answered a lot of questions. Just want to remind people who do not, anyone who does not want to participate in this program, the opt-out deadline is March 7th. So I believe that's Sunday, yes. So you can do it in two ways. If you still have your own, the postcard up here, this is the postcard you received in the mail. So you can just fill out this postcard. You get a, so you don't even need a stamp for the envelope. You can just throw it in the mailbox or give it to your carrier if the carrier ever comes to your house. Or if you don't want to do this, you can call. So I'll give you the number. You can call Energy Harbor, and the number is 1-866-636-3749. 1-866-636-3749. And again, call that Energy Harbor before March, or on March 7th or before March 7th. Since it's a Sunday, I would suggest you call before. Just want to say that we concluded Black History Month. It was 28 days, but it was 28 jam-packed days right up until Sunday. So we had an exciting series of events. The mayor did his book reading again for the 4th time. I want to thank you and thank all the groups who participated. And it was really a group effort, and we had everything this year. It was really terrific. We'll be having a Zoom debrief. Normally we go out for coffee at one of the Black-owned businesses, but we're not doing that. So we're going to have a Zoom meeting, and maybe at the end of the year, when we get ready for next year, we'll kick it off at one of the businesses. And lastly, I just want to give you a couple of updates from our Engineering, Public Works, and Planning Committee. We had a good discussion about emergency road openings. It's like a magnet. All we have to do is pave a road, and it automatically attracts PSE&G or the water company. So, and then of course, everything's an emergency to them, so they're not getting permission to do cuts in the road beforehand. They're not informing residents. So we're looking to see if we can address this on the state level. We know it's broader than us, and I know in my years talking to other mayors, this has been a recurring problem. So we're going to try to join with other towns to see if we can do something about it. Our engineers are going to be working on a new model ordinance that was put out for by New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for stormwater control. And we're going to be looking at some natural ways that we can build that into our plan, like rain gardens and different other types of strategies. We had a good, long, and deep discussion of our sewer system, our sanitary sewer system, which is old and which we want to make sure continues into the future. We brought up again that we're going to keep an eye on whatever happens out of Washington with infrastructure repair, because this would be a perfect opportunity. But nevertheless, it's time that we have to invest in our sanitary sewer system. So we'll be making that case to the public as to why we may have to increase some sewer fees to just make those investments. And lastly, we are working on the Maple Terrace brook issue, and we're working to get a meeting with the Department of Environmental Protection. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. And a couple of things, there's a lot of synergies there, some finance stuff wrapped into the engineering notes, and maybe we'll take it offline, but let's have a conversation with our contact at PSE&G and try to get their roadmap or any roadmap coupled with ours and see if we can mitigate some of these issues. I think that's an opportunity. And I'll just say it now, since you brought up, I wanted to thank you and Anna Archuleta for the work that you both did, leading all of us with Black History Month. It's great. I enjoyed being in so many events. I enjoyed moderating the Chamber's event. The Maplewood Chamber of Commerce was a great event where I had for Black business owners, Jimmy Joseph, Home Loans. We had Ozzy and Glinda from the Urban Cycling. We had Josephine and Roger Stevens from City Workshop, which is killing it in the village. We had Oscar Lawson and his partner at Freetown Kitchen and CBD. So it was a great conversation. People says one of the best chamber events they've had in recent history. And it was really, really, really good and insightful to hear from Black business owners and how they, have been successful and how they maintain their business in Maplewood and especially during the pandemic. So very good. So thank you, and thank you to Anna. She showed why she's one of our employees of the month. I'm telling you, she crushed it. So kudos to you. All right, I'll move on now to Mr. Daffis.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to talk about, I have a discussion item, so I'll do more talking in a little bit, but I want to use my report time to also salute Committee Member DeLuca and our Cultural Affairs Director, Ana Di Archuleta, on their amazing efforts for Black History Month. I think this year's Black History Month was even better than what we've ever done before. There was something for everyone, and I learned a lot during it. And I also have to say that my favorite event, it was hard to pick one. If I had to choose my favorite, it was definitely the Chamber of Commerce's discussion with our Black-owned businesses. Hearing from them and their stories and their lived experience really was inspiring and added necessary perspective to what we do in town and how we could do it better for everyone. So it was really, really terrific. And Mr. DeLuca, seriously, sir, you have created the template that we are all using. We're riffing off of you for Women's History Month and certainly for Pride Month, which, believe it or not, is already started in the planning a couple days ago. So I also want to take the time to salute Committee Member Adams. Nancy, amazing lineup coming up. I thought the proclamation tonight, ironically, it even went better than it does sometimes when we're in person together. I thought it was seamless and inspiring. It was great to have that kind of participation and to really focus on our sheroes, our first responders. And I look forward to the entire month of all the events. So with that, I turn it over to Mr. Lembrick.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to join my colleagues in a number of things. First of all, in thanking Mr. Schuster. It's really been a pleasure, and I've really appreciated how you've stepped into this situation and helped us sort of through this transition time. And you really brought a sense of professionalism to the position that I think far exceeded any expectations that we had for an interim administrator. And clearly with the budget and other challenges we have, I think we needed it. So you were the right person at the right time, and we're grateful to you.
Thank you.
We wish you the best in what's to come, and you're always welcome back here in Maplewood. I'd be very happy to have you back here and buy you a meal or a beer at one of our many establishments.
I will take you up on that.
Similar to my colleagues, I also want to talk about, what a great job, we've done as a township, and particularly some of my colleagues have done with Black History Month and Women's History Month. Mr. DeLuca and all the team with the Arts Council and the Department of Arts and Cultural Affairs with the Black History Month and Nancy. Tonight was great, and I it seemed like we got, maybe Zoom is one of those things that it helped us to get even more people than we usually get. It was a great turnout tonight, and great to see some of those folks to come out. And I want to also take a moment to promote a particular Women's History Month event here in town. And Mayor McGee just put it up. So my wife, Alex Carter, who's a professor at Columbia Law School and last year published a book, is going to be having an event with Mayor Frank's wife, Marie McGehee. That's going to be Wednesday night, March 24th. So coming up in about 3 weeks at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And that's certainly an event that I'll be attending. And I encourage everyone to come out. You know, it's two great women. And for those of you who don't already believe it, if you show up to that event, you will see that Mayor Frank and I both clearly married up.
Hey, make sure you send me that so I can get it on our website.
Nancy, we'll get it to you. We Anna has it. As you said, you have so many things.
I know, I probably already have it and I just haven't gotten to it. Okay, cool, thanks.
And finally, just want to talk about a few upcoming meetings that the public is invited to, in addition to all the Women's History Month and other events going on this week. The Community Board on Police's next meeting is tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. And the Public Safety Committee is meeting next Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. And both of those meetings are via Zoom, and the links are available on the Township website. And Mr. Mayor, that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Limbrick. I'll be short. A lot of things have already been said, so I won't be redundant. Just that this Saturday, we'll go into our third and final budget session. It's been a very fruitful and informative couple of sessions. We still have a lot of work ahead of us to trim down and get to a palatable number in terms of a year-over-year tax increase, basically. This Saturday, we'll be focusing on capital. We've heard from all of our departments regarding capital, and so we'll go and do a deeper dive and see what we may not move forward with and what we will move forward with. Then we'll also, as we kind of started last Saturday, we'll take a deep dive into revenues. Obviously, we're down 1.5 million because of COVID. So how do we make those things up? So we'll be looking literally at a balance sheet, right? Understanding revenues versus expenses. And that will help kind of frame our next part of the conversation, which will be an operating expense recap, looking at what we can and cannot live without, in a continuation really of COVID. And then also our finance committee has met since the last meeting, and what I will do is I'm going to have it as a discussion item. We've identified an opportunity for electronic payments, and so we will cover that shortly here in actually a few minutes. And then also, last but not least, I think that we had a wonderful, again, Black History Month, and as we transition into Women's History Month, it's something that is going to be amazing. And, Ms. Abbs has been working diligently on that. So, I definitely wanted to help and jump in as well. And as mentioned in the proclamation, community leaders are working together to shine a spotlight on Women's History Month and events to celebrate women's empowerment. And I personally agree with that 100%. So another event that I like to promote actually is women's self-care, dismantling the myths. So we have some phenomenal Maplewood residents that will be part of this event. We have former Miss America who lives right here in Maplewood, Kim Cochran. We have former Vice President of Global Communications at Estee Lauder, Trinisha Denuser. We have my wife, the First Lady, who's also a global communications executive. And then we have the co-founder of Brawl and Boxing Yoga Studio, which has been the hit all over Maplewood, South Orange, and really all Essex County. You've seen them in the tennis courts, you've seen them in other places, and it's become, I think they call themselves the Brawl crew in there. And there's a big following of women throughout South Orange, Maplewood, and all of Essex County, really. So join us Wednesday, March 11th at 7 p.m. Really for a powerful Women's History Month event. And with that, that will be my report. And we'll now move into our discussion items.
Who was the guy on the left on the box in that photo?
I try to make it smaller.
Yeah.
I am going to be moderating this event,
okay.
as I was instructed to by the First Lady. So I will be moderating this wonderful panel. So, so March 10th, Wednesday, March 10th. By the way, I said March 11th. So awesome. So thank you. All right. Now we'll go ahead and move into the first discussion item, which is about electronic payments to vendors. So I'll just go to give a narrative. Mr. Kaloje has joined us this evening as well for any questions that my colleagues might have. But coming out of Finance Committee, we thought it would be prudent to continue to expand our cash management plan. We already do electronic payments. We do them for the county, payroll, the school district, pensions, debt service. And so expanding our payment plan makes a lot of sense. And really there's three key reasons. They all relate to operating expenses. You know, the payment law now exposes us as a township to late payments and interest penalties for those. So those are more expenses that we incur as a township by not using an electronic method. Number two is, you know, occasionally we have suspension of services because we're paying by snail mail and not online. So it impacts us when we try to get gas from Wawa, for example. And then the third part, which Mr. Kaloje brought to our attention, was our auditor findings. And those are obviously very critical as well when you think about our operations. So the local finance notice of 2018-13 announced the substantial changes to the New Jersey Administration Code. And essentially what we're looking to do is to find a way to address this. So what does this mean for us moving forward? This requires us establishing internal controls, very similar to the procurement card, which we started years ago under Ms. Viveros, and creating a particular policy regarding electronic payments. We would have to, of course, adopt a resolution memorizing these policies and procedures. So electronic payments, you know, it will immediately address in the short term our need to align really with, I guess, really the 21st century way that we do payments. So I'd like to yield the floor to my colleagues for a discussion to see if there is an interest or majority interest in moving forward with electronic payments for vendors, as we already do with key payments, i.e. the county and the school district.
I think it's a great idea. As the finance chair, I thought that in the past, I thought that it was just a lot of work to process a check sometimes for very little money. And one thing I would hope we could do is, we do a lot of reimbursements of security deposits and things like that, which takes, you know, we have to write checks, we got to put it in the mail, it costs us postage. If there's a way we can do some, be able to use these electronic payments to reimburse people for their security deposits, that I think would be helpful.
Anyone else?
I support this. Yep, we've discussed it in finance. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I see nothing but upside here. I think we should go for it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Desiderio, perhaps you can work with Mr. Kaloje on the particulars per the resolution and so forth. You're on mute.
Yes.
Of course, I would work with Mr. Kaloje.
Thank you.
That's not what he said when he was on mute.
She's a lip reader.
Awesome, thank you. We'll now move on to discussion item number 2, which would be grease traps.
I get the best topics to talk about, right? So actually, this is an important topic, and this is part 2 of our discussion. So we all agreed to move forward with some local regulation of what goes into our sewer, especially as it relates to runoff from grease traps of restaurants. Certainly, the more restaurants that we have in town, the greater burden they're placing on our sewers. And we need to focus on the health of our sewers and invest in our aging infrastructure, as committee member DeLuca noted earlier. This is an opportunity to bring us in keeping with what other towns do, including our sister town, South Orange, from which we essentially ripped off our current ordinance that was circulated for your review prior to this evening. It would give us the opportunity to regulate what restaurants do with respect to their grease trap maintenance. So the way this works is, I hope you've had the opportunity to review the ordinance. Like any good ordinance, it really does tell each party what they're responsible for. It's very clear and it's very precise. Mr. Desiderio and I and Health Officer Davenport still with us worked really hard on this, but there were several edits and several rounds of discussion. So we wanted to bring it back to you so that you had an opportunity to weigh in. The way this works is that we would include this into the annual inspection that the health department conducts with our restaurants already. Annually, around January, sometime of each year, our health inspector, our environmental health inspectors go out and they do their inspections to make sure that things are sanitary and safe and clean in our restaurants. During that time, they would also inspect for the healthy maintenance of the restaurant businesses' grease traps. What we're proposing here is that the restaurants would certify annually that they are properly maintaining grease traps. Most restaurants know how to do that, but also that there would be that they're cleaning them out at least 4 times a year. For some restaurants, that'll be more. The minimum is 4 times a year. That's pretty much the standard practice, the minimum practice. And it would also require the restaurants to certify that they've inspected their grease traps by a certified plumber who is an expert in this. They're not just saying, oh yeah, our grease traps are maintained properly, and that the waste is taken away by a certified hauler. Because as committee member Adams noted last time when we discussed this, oftentimes our restaurants have become accustomed to throwing the waste in trash bags that end up in waste management, which is also an environmental hazard, and we don't want to do that. Or a lot of this runoff just ends up in our sewer anyway. So that is essentially what we're trying to do here. Now, we recognize that this places a burden on our businesses, right? But, there is a dance here, right? There is a cost of doing business. And we think that, this is a pretty reasonable balance requirement. Also, we recognize that we are still coming out of a pandemic and our restaurants are not operating at full capacity. However, again, the ordinance calls for an enactment, if it is adopted as it is, not until September. And the first inspection would not be due until January. So there is a runway period here for education and for preparation. With that, I want to invite Health Officer Davenport for further input.
Before you do that, Mr. Davis, I just want to make one correction. The way this is drafted right now, it's 3 times a year.
3 times a year.
Every 4 months, not every 3 months. Just okay.
Yep. Sorry about that. Yep, absolutely correct. Ms. Davenport.
Yes, so as you have the proposed ordinance for discussion, would you like to go through it section by section, or would you like to bring up? No, Mr. DeLuca.
I don't think that's definitely not necessary. They're able to read very well.
Yeah. So what is the issue? Okay. Because we agreed on this. What is the issue here?
Right. So
go ahead.
My 2 issues that I would like to bring to your attention is what Mr. Desiderio brought up, which was cleaning frequency. So, on your form, it says every 4 months, but on average, it's every 1 to 3 months, like Mr. Daffis had mentioned. So would you like the minimum frequency for cleaning to be a minimum of 3 months? So that way 4 times a year for each of the restaurants to clean?
Well, we'll take what your recommendation is. What is your recommendation? What is the best practice based on your research?
A minimum of 3 months, and to clean more frequently depending on the inspecting official, who would be an REHS or engineer or our building official or subcode plumber. If if there was a problem, they would advise us as well.
I don't know how to draft that. You're telling, first we're saying it's going to be every 4 months. Now we're going to be every 3 months. And now you're going to say it's going to be more often. But how is somebody who's maintaining a restaurant supposed to know that?
Depending on what the inspector sees. So for example, I'll use a A sushi business would clean it less frequently if they have a grease trap than a burger joint or a diner, because the use of grease or production of fog would be more so in a place that produces more food with
Okay.
grease.
So I'm changing that to 3 months, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The next part that I'd like to bring to your attention is inspection. So inspection, I just want to make this clear. Every 3 months, they would a restaurant would clean their grease trap. The grease would be taken away by a grease hauler or service renderer. So it'd be an official person who's taking it away. Unlike some of the current practices, where I think that the intention is good, but as you mentioned, Ms. Adams, it may not be the most environmentally friendly, which is that they suck it up themselves with a shop vac and then put it into two garbage bags and then throw it into regular trash. So we don't want that to be done either. We want it to go to a regular grease hauler so it's cleaner. However, inspections would be done by a licensed plumber, and that would be done 3 times a year, once at the beginning of January, and then once in May, and another final time in September. So that, and this mimics what South Orange does as well. What the licensed plumber would do is to certify to us, to the township, and then submit it to the health department that, yeah, the grease trap is good, it's clean. Now, I just want to say that South Orange, for example, did this, had an ordinance for years where they just had a licensed plumber come in one time. But then because of their need to clean the sewer and address the aging sewer line, they recently, in the last couple of years, increased that to 3 times a year by a licensed plumber. So asking your guidance if that is okay as well.
Well, is that what you recommend, Healthcare Officer Davenport, based on your research?
Based on our research, with the fact that South Orange has a similar aging sewer line and they put that in, it would be recommended to do that.
Okay. Are there any issues from anyone about any of these things?
I just have a question about so if I own the restaurant, I bring a plumber in January, May, and September. Does the plumber give me the report and I have to submit it to you, or does the plumber submit the report directly to the town?
The plumber would submit the report directly to the town, and the restaurant would have a copy of it for their records.
Okay.
The restaurant is required to maintain a maintenance log of their inspections and cleanings so that the health inspector or their team has the opportunity to do inspections.
Right. So when we would go for an inspection, we would ask them for the maintenance log and see the frequency of their cleaning and inspections.
Right. So are we good with this? We can move forward to introduce it?
Yep.
All right, great. I think if we talk about it anymore, Health Officer Davenport, we're going to be, what's that phrase? Snatching victory from the mouths of defeat, right? Yeah.
I think we'll be on a slippery slope.
Yeah, so let's just move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, I yield back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you, Mr. Desiderio, and thank you, Ms. Davenport. And we'll now have our third and probably most important discussion item, which is brewery sales at farmers market. Ms. Adams, I yield the floor to you.
Yes, as we all have heard, the state has allowed to try to help breweries and businesses during COVID to allow local breweries, New Jersey breweries, to sell at farmers markets. We have a farmers market in Maplewood that we manage. I just wanted to see if my colleagues would agree that we can ask our assistant administrator to recruit a local brewery to see if they'd be interested in selling at our farmers market, and whether or not we need any. We can work out the details, whether it has to go to local ABC or it's just the zoning officer. I'm unclear on the legislation, but
I think we should do it. I think we should also instruct Mr. Desiderio to research it so that we know whether to pass an ordinance or a resolution.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have Soma, 2 towns, right? Soma,
Yeah.
2 towns, right? I feel like there's another one. I can't think of the name.
I think we need to be guided by what local means.
Right. I'm not even sure.
Because we
Yeah.
don't know what local means. It could mean North Jersey, it could mean New Jersey, or it could mean Maplewood. So I think Mr. Desiderio can check out the law and guide us.
Will do.
Sounds like everybody's in favor.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think it'd be a great diverse, adding that diverse product. I think people, you know, if it's a local brewery and they bring their growler and they go pick up a new one every week, that would be, you know, just gets people there back every week. So it's all, and it's good for them. So it's good for
And
them.
that's a great point. Repeat traffic.
Yeah.
So it helps everybody. Great point.
Beer and cheese, beer and cheese.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item number 16, our consent agenda. May I get a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we adopt items 1 through 7 of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now on agenda item number 17, which is public comment on any subject matter. Nick, do we have anyone who would like to address the Township Committee at this time?
Yes. Okay. First up, Mr. John Sullivan. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to applaud and note that I appreciate that the appointment of 3 new individuals to the Swimming Pool Advisory Committee this evening. I've spoken to some of the present members and some of the members who are recently appointed about exploring ways in which to have the pools more accessible to the community, especially those that have financial means difficulties to purchase full memberships, whether that be done through day passes, weekend passes, or free time. Also looking at advertising from some of our local businesses, whether they put up signage or what have you. We have a bunch of realtors in the area. You can see similar signage in South Orange and some of the ball fields in Maplewood. If we could do something like that to help defray costs, I'd be in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Do we have anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee?
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, I have an email comment to read into the record.
Sure.
So Shannon Cuddle asks, Essex County has done a fabulous job with the vaccine rollout, and many thanks to our county leadership, and also thanks to our township in partnering and assisting the county. It has been a model. Thank you everyone involved and the many volunteers and first responders. Currently, persons with known food or drug allergies or those that require use of an EpiPen to be carried are told they are not eligible at this time to sign up at the mega site. Persons via online registration are questioned and later directed to seek guidance from their doctor or hospital provider, but many are not accepting vaccine persons outside of medical and first responders or are not equipped at this time to offer in that setting. As we move towards other options, sorry, this is worded, will other options become available?
Thank you, Glenn, for reading that. That's something I would yield to our health officer, who I think has left the.
No, I'm here.
Oh.
If you'd like me to answer that.
Oh, good.
Mayor.
Okay, I didn't see you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Please, if you don't.
Sure. So yes, that is the what I've heard the Essex County Health Officer, Maya Lordo, say, and I do believe that she'll need guidance, and she looks to guidance from the county and state medical advisors on which categories of people or tiers of eligibility they're able to give, because it is a public site and they have strict rules and regulations. That being said, if you are someone with underlying health conditions and you are curious about whether the state will open up for for people with allergies. I know that they're very specific, like if you've had allergies to specific vaccinations in the past, they would prefer that you go to your healthcare provider, only because you might have reactions that the doctor will know more intimately, but also that someone will monitor you more closely than at a large facility where you are monitored for 15 minutes. But if you potentially have more complications, they would prefer if you go to someone who can watch you individually. That being said, also, healthcare providers should be getting more and more vaccines in their own offices soon enough as production increases. So your options will be widened, not just to the county large facilities, but to your individual practitioner. But I can provide Ms. Cuddle with the Essex County Health Officer's email address so that she can propose her question to her directly, and then she can go and seek guidance from the state and county medical advisors.
Thank you, Ms. Davenport.
Mr. Mayor, I wanted to just follow up on that, if I may.
Mr. Daffis.
So Health Officer Davenport, I just wanted to follow up on that. I know that one of the reasons why the county observes all patients receiving vaccinations for 15 to 20 minutes after they receive their dose is for this reason, for allergic reactions. And the healthcare personnel, first responders who are on site are equipped with an EpiPen and know how to use it. So how does that jive with this other guidance?
So as a safety precaution, the EMS are there for those 15 minutes, and there are medical providers such as myself who monitor people because we don't know how people are going to react to this vaccine. As for people who have had specific allergies where they might have an anaphylactic reaction, that's one where we definitely would want them to go to a physician where they will be closely monitored, or someone who has better knowledge of their experiences and knows how they're going to react in a certain situation. While we do have EMS people there, and St. Barnabas, luckily for Livingston, is right there, we definitely, if someone has a severe allergic reaction, we would dissuade them from going to a public facility like that. That being said, things are changing all the time with the eligibility for the counties. So I will provide Ms. Cuddle with the email so she can follow up with the county directly.
Yeah, so I think that this is another opportunity, Candace, to advocate with the county health officer, as we have done with pregnant persons and some other cohorts where we were sort of getting conflicting, guidance. I think this is an opportunity to advocate. I've actually heard from a couple of people prior to our meeting tonight about the same exact question. There was someone with pre-existing conditions who also had these allergic reactions, and they also could not sign up. So I think there's some inconsistencies here, and we need to navigate them. This is an opportunity to advocate with the county public health.
Yeah, I think that they're just being super conservative. Again, they just want to be very careful as we roll this out. But as we're getting more cases and more people, and the pool is getting larger, hopefully the guidance from like Moderna and Pfizer with the use of vaccinations and allergens will become clear as more data comes out.
Certainly. I think that when you go through the screening on the Essex COVID site, it doesn't really discern allergic reaction, right? It doesn't really say exactly what you said. I'm not saying that you don't know what you're saying. Of course, you know what you're saying, but it just basically says in general allergic reaction, and that could mean a lot of things. That's very broad, and that could be a lot of people. That could be most of us. So we certainly do not want people discouraged from being vaccinated if they are otherwise eligible right now.
Right. We can talk to the county about clarifying some of the questions and how they're phrased on the township on the county website. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis, and thank you, of course, Ms. Davenport, and thank you for staying for the whole meeting. We appreciate your time. Do we have any additional questions, Nick, from the public?
No, Mr. Mayor, that's all I got.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick, as always. Appreciate you. Okay, we're now at agenda item number 18, motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Beach.
All in favor?